Here to explain how to turn your dealership into a customer experience machine is Brian Neal, NFL umpire number 92 and the chief of Blind Zebra Consulting. Please give him a warm welcome.
Good afternoon. Good to see everyone here today. My name is Brian Neal, and I'm going to be talking to you today about something that I think is really important, critical to our industry, and I believe that's probably why you're here, and it all has to do with customer experience. Before I get into the detail of what we're going to learn today, I want to give you a little context so that you understand where I'm coming from and where some of my perspectives are. I have two jobs. During the week, I do business-to-business sales training and sales coaching for sales teams in my hometown in Indianapolis, Indiana. One of my clients sells into the automotive business. They actually call on dealers. And I've been working with them for about 8 years. They encouraged me to take some of the things that I teach them and share it with the dealer side, because they call and talk to dealers all day, every day. And they thought, the dealer groups could really benefit from some of the things that you talk about. So that's one of my perspectives. Another perspective that I have is I purchased 3 cars within about 15 months, all with totally different experiences, all different brands, all different types, different financing structures. And it's the experiences that I had there that really drove me to what I'm going to teach you today. So I'm really coming as a consumer, someone that went through the process, some things you're familiar with, probably some things that you do in your dealership. And I'm going to share with you what one guy's perspective is and take some of those 2 things from my sales training and coaching work and then my experience as a car buyer and share those with you. My other job I do on the weekends, 6 months out of the year. I am also a football official in the National Football League. I've been refereeing football for 29 years and just finished my 3rd season in the NFL. Before that, I spent 8 years in the Big Ten, working games mostly in the central part of the United States, and worked small college and high school up until then. So if you're an NFL fan, how many of you have seen an NFL football game? I would imagine most of you have. You've probably yelled at me and not know it. The good thing is now that you know my name, you can bitch at me by name. So it's all good, all right? So I'll be up around afterwards to answer questions about either customer experience stuff or anything about football. I can tell you anything you want to know if you want the inside scoop. So let's talk about the customer experience idea anyway. Not just in the automotive business, but across the board, this customer experience idea is getting to be a really huge thing, all right? And there are a couple of companies that I think we are up against that have nothing to do with the car business per se, but they, to me, epitomize the best customer experience you could possibly imagine for a consumer. One of them is an app that allows you to have someone pick you up and take you places. You know what that is, right? It's Uber. The other one is a place where you push a button on your phone and you buy something and it shows up at your doorstep. You all probably used it at Christmas. Yes, that's Amazon, Amazon Prime, which is like an addictive thing now. If you use Amazon Prime, you literally just you push a button and stuff shows up. And what I think is interesting about those is from a customer experience standpoint, those 2 apps are the things that we now compete against. Those are the things that people expect and want, right? We want it now, we want exactly what we want, and we want to be told what we want. Amazon is brilliant at telling us what we want. We buy things we don't even need because Amazon says we need them. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need a lava lamp, don't I? Yeah, I do need a click. Lava lamp shows up at my house. I don't have a lava lamp, but it's like that, right? And so when you think about customer experience in the automotive world, in your dealership back at home, I don't want you to think about just competing against the Ford store down the street or the Honda store in the next town over. I want you to think about your competition for customer experience are all of the other consumer type brands that we use that have wonderful experience. All right, it's a really interesting thing to think about. From an outcome standpoint, when you walk out of the door today, I want you to have 2 things happen to you. Number 1, I want you to be thinking about customer experience in a different way. I want your wheels turning. I want you thinking, man, I got to start to rethink how we're thinking about customer experience and recategorize it in your brain. The second thing I want to give you some really useful tools that you can take away and use tomorrow. I'm going to give you some very tactical, practical things that I know you can put into play and will start to help you on the customer experience side right away. All right, so those are the 2 outcomes that I want. So let's first set the stage. Let's talk about the customer experience and what's really going on here. So here are some stats that I've got from some, I believe, some very reliable sources. Accenture 2015, 75% of people would consider making the entire car buying process online if they could. Now, if I'm in your seat and I own a dealership and I sell cars for a living, that makes me really nervous. Because one of those brands I mentioned earlier that's really good at customer experience, Amazon, they're not dumb. right? I'm fearful, sort of, that Amazon's going to go, wait a second, we can do this. We can one-touch finance all the way through, and I can deliver a car right to your doorstep, just like I deliver lava lamps right to your doorstep. So that to me is a little scary, that people would do this online if we let them, if there was a way to do it. This one, I think, is just common sense these days, and unfortunately, and I hate this because this is just what reality is, though, a super small percentage, 17 out of 4,002 people from an Auto Trader survey said that they actually liked the car buying process. Now, here's what stinks about this for me. In my opinion, the happiest time in your life, one of the happiest times in your life, is when you drive off of a car lot in a brand new car. I don't care if it's a pre-owned, if it's brand new, I don't care if it costs $80,000 or $20,000, if it's your first car, your last car, a fun car, doesn't matter. When you pull off of a lot in a new car, you feel awesome. You think everybody's looking at you, right? I bought a Honda Odyssey, right? There's a billion Honda Odysseys around, and it's not a real cool car for a guy to be driving around. Drive off the lot, Honda Odyssey, I think everyone's looking at me because I got my Honda Odyssey, right? I bought a 2000 Jeep Wrangler, beat up, stick shift. I drive off the lot, it's all dirty. I think everyone's looking at me because I got a new car. So consumers love the end, they love that feeling. The problem is they don't like the process to get there. Now you, on the other hand, you want the same thing. You want that consumer to have that feeling driving off your lot, not somebody else's. And so everybody wants the same thing. The problem is the process. It's that they don't like the process. So if we can make that better, make that experience better, I believe we're going to have really happy people along the way, not just when they leave the lot. Along the way, they'll be happy. All right? So here's the good news now. Nearly three-fourths, 72% of people say they would visit if the process were improved. So they would actually like it if the process and the experience were better. They would want to go and talk to you because there's a lot of knowledge that we as sales professionals and automotive dealerships provide people that make that process better for them. There's a lot of knowledge they get online, but there's also a lot of stuff that we can do to enhance that and help them along the way. So they're telling us in this, I'm hearing this is good news. This is like, hey, make this better and I'll show up. Make it better and I'll show up, okay? And then this also is great to me because there's something in this statement that's missing that I think is really interesting. 2/3 of the people said they're more likely to buy from a dealership that offers a preferred experience. More likely to buy from a dealership that offers a preferred experience. What's not in there has anything to do with price. It doesn't say a preferred experience and the cheapest price. And you'll hear in some of my examples, one of them specifically, I bought a car that was not the cheapest price, and I bought it there because of the experience. That's why I did that. And I'll tell you a little bit about that story as we go. Okay? So what I see here in these stats is that we've got a problem and we've got hope and a solution because people are saying, if you make this better, I'll do it. And so what's the answer in all this? To me, it's customer experience from soup to nuts, right? So I'm going to give you some things as we go to go back to your dealerships and do. And I'm going to start just right away. And here's what I want you to think about doing. I want you to think about secret shopping yourself, but not the way we've traditionally done secret shopping. I want you to think about, well, I'll ask you, when does the car buying process start, right? When does it starts online, correct. When it starts online, I want you, and I want some of the people in your dealership, some of the people that work for you, your associates, to do the same thing. And I want you to go just like someone would. You live in Oklahoma City, you type in Oklahoma City Chevrolet and hit enter, find your website, and now the process starts. And I want you to see what the experience is like. And then go buy something on Amazon Prime and compare the two and see how it feels, okay? Start to take really, really good note of the experience that consumers have all the way. Again, I'm kind of an outsider to this, like I'm a consumer. When I go on automotive websites, I feel like they're real cluttery. There's a lot of stuff. How many of you use Uber? Everybody uses Uber, just about, okay? When you use Uber, when Uber first came out, there was one button to push, and it said request Uber. And you hit it, and then this guy found you, and then you got in his car, and you put in where you wanted to go, and he took you there. It's so simple, it's so easy, right? It knows everything. It knows my save locations now. Now it's getting smarter to get to know me better. Then the choices came, but in the beginning, there was only one button to push. Amazon Prime, I buy it now, everything's done. So look at your website and compare it to that, and think about that, and audit it relative to those two apps, and see what you come up with, right? Check out your website, because that's where the whole thing starts, and every interaction is part of the experience. Okay, so let's talk about now, we're going into your dealership now, and we say, okay, who all is involved in this whole process, right? Who is involved? My answer is everyone. Every single human being that pulls a paycheck out of your business is part of the experience. No matter what they do, even if they don't see a customer, if they're not dialed in, so maybe you've got a CFO who never talks to customers, that person is still involved in the process because they own or touch some element of it that touches the consumer that comes in there. And so this has to be an all hands on deck deal. Here's a story. One of the cars, so about 3 cars, I told you that. So I bought a Infiniti QX80. I bought that through TrueCar at a dealership. I bought a Honda Odyssey, new, leased that one, direct from a dealer. And then I paid cash for a 2000 Jeep Wrangler that I bought from a non-branded pre-owned store, okay? All 3 different experiences. The Infiniti store was very, very interesting. When I did the TrueCar thing, so I put my stuff into TrueCar, I hit enter, and what happened in like a millisecond, right? In a millisecond, I got hammered with like 50 emails. What was interesting about that is none of the emails were personalized to me. They said, "Dear Brian," but then it went into some stuff that wasn't personal to me, okay? I'm a capitalist. I love my hometown. I love to keep business there. So I went to the Infiniti dealership in my hometown, reached out to them. They were one of the TrueCar people that came up and started working with this sales guy who was really good. And he has awards all over his office, and he's a good sales guy. In the meantime, an Infiniti dealership about 200 miles away, this woman sent me what I consider to be the only personalized text that I got from anyone. It was the only personalized message. And I could just tell the tone of it. She was just typing it herself. Right? She said where she was, she said kind of what day it was, and that she got my info, and she's working part-time up there. She just told me her story. Very, very real. And so I started texting with her and ended up talking to her on the phone. And I just had a wonderful experience with her. And I came back to the local guy and I said, "Hey, I'm talking to this dealership 200 miles away, and I'm really enjoying what I'm hearing here. Is there anything you can do? Because they got a good deal for me and I really like this, but I want to keep my business here." And he proceeded to tell me how angry he was that dealership did it. He started to talk about, "Oh, they do this all the time. They come and poach our stuff, and they're owned by a group out of Chicago, and they got this little store over here, and so they're able to do that, and da-da-da." And I'm like, that's not a good experience. I did not like that. Did not make me feel good, right? And I understand he was frustrated, so I'm not trying to say, well, that's not okay, but it just didn't feel right to me. So that started to make the process kind of for me, right? Here's how that impacts things, though. So I have a client, a sales guy that I work with in another business, and he said, "Hey, how do you like the QX80? I'm like, "I love it. It's great." He says, "I think about getting one. Where did you get yours?" And what do you think I said? I said, "I got it here, but the experience wasn't awesome. Be sure to call these people because they were great to deal with." Now, there was a reason I bought it here. I just, the numbers got close enough where it wasn't worth me driving up there. But I told him about that other dealership, and he bought it somewhere else. And my dealership probably doesn't know this, right? They don't know this, right? And they don't know that I'm telling people this, right? And I'm not doing it to be mean and vengeful. I'm just being real with it, right? But this is what happens with experience. That's why, to me, the experience is so important, because this is the hard part. I know in the auto world, you fight so hard for ups and leads and that sort of thing, and you kind of have one chance, and you're like, "Man, what do I do? What do I do? I can't let them go." I believe the experience, even if they don't buy a car from you, is so critical to the after the sale referral and buzz that you get. You have to see it that way. You've got to see it as a long term, not as a transaction. Got to see it as the long term, I believe, from an experience standpoint, because this is exactly what happened here, right? My friend goes and spends 70 grand somewhere else and has a wonderful experience, and he tells everybody because he had a great experience too. All right, that's what's so important to me around this. So that's an example of who all's involved. The woman up there was a part-time internet sales manager. She was also a server, because I talked to her for a little bit. She was a server at a local bar in this little town up by where this dealership is, right? She's just very real with me. And I just thought it was great how she handled herself. So a great lesson for me. Part-time internet sales manager created a great experience. Professional award-winning salesperson created a less than good experience. Very, very interesting for me as a consumer to see that, okay? So let's talk about this. Who's involved? Everybody. Receptionist, sales manager, service advisor, GM, everybody is. Look at this one, the shuttle driver. Now, how many of you let me ask you this, how many of you spend time and money training your shuttle driver on customer experience? My guess is maybe not many. You're like, "Well, Bob's been here for 40 years. He's great. Everybody loves him," right? And maybe they do, right? But wouldn't it be interesting just to understand what the experience is like when the shuttle driver comes and picks me up to take me to my courtesy vehicle or brings my car around, how they look, how they sound, how they smell, what they say, how they smile. All those things are critical, in my opinion, for experience. And everybody matters in that whole equation. I think that's really, really critical. So here's a to-do item for you. Have groups of these people. I told you this one. Have groups of these people. Secret shop you. Go through the experience. Look for ways to improve it. Look for little ways to improvement. And then spend time training these people on customer experience. Have your service techs. I bet you spend lots of money and lots of time training your service techs on technical issues. I'm sure you all do that. How about spending some time also training them on how to interact with customers? Little things like smiling at them. Super, super important in the experience that they have. Okay? So that's a to-do item for you to go ahead and take away. Okay, so now I'm going to give you some practical things to go use. So this is a framework that I use with my clients, and I share it here with you, and I challenge you to take it home and make it your own. This is nothing more than a framework. It's not like super rocket science-ish. It's not like some invention or trademark system or anything like that. It's just a lot of common sense applied to business. Now, the top word on this slide is the critical one, think. When it comes to customer experience, too often what we do is we dive into the bottom two things there. What do I say and what do I do? What do I say and what do I do? And that's fine. More importantly, though, I think customer experience comes from the inside out. I believe it's an energy that you create. You create good space, people feel good about it. You create bad space, people feel bad about it, right? What's the energy that I exude? Do the people around you in your dealership, do they look happy? Do they look like they enjoy being there? Right? Culturally, does it feel like a great, inviting, fun sort of place, right? So the thinking idea, I think, is the number one to-do item here on this list. You've got to come up with a philosophical list. I slang this up sometimes and I say, this is a document that shows you how we roll. This is how we roll, right? And you've got 4, 5, 8, 10 things. Have your staff do this with you. If you said, okay, when it comes to customer experience, this is how we're going to roll. You know, we're at Button Dodge. This is how we roll a Button Dodge. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And it's thinking stuff, right? It's not action and words yet. If you get the thinking right, the action and the words follow right in line. Piece of cake, right? I think about my football officiating business. And what's interesting about this, the thinking, the insight is so important in this business because it's so high pressure. There's 15 high definition cameras. There's 70,000 people in the stands, right? We got 2 million people watching on TV. And I'm out there and I've got to perform and I got to throw my flag and influence the game and that sort of thing. I could teach you what to do and to say. I could teach you the bottom two things in 4 weeks. I could teach you where to stand, where to look, what to watch, where to move your eyes. I could teach you what holding is and passing. I could teach you all that. And then if I walked you out there with me, San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys, this was my first game as a rookie, and stood you right next to me, right, staring at Dak Prescott right there, and there's Ezekiel Elliott, you'd be dying. Your leg would be shaking. Your leg would be shaking because your thinking is off. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Even though I taught you all the stuff, the thinking is off, right? So this thinking becomes critical when it comes to this, and anything we do, including customer experience. So let's talk about what some elements might be. I'm going to give you 3 elements of a thinking format, right? Some things to believe in, some ways to be that will impact your customer experience. The first one is the idea of abundance. Abundance means a lot, right? It means a lot, like overflowing, like more than I would ever need, okay? The opposite of abundance is scarcity. Scarcity means lack, not enough, fear-based, that sort of thing. And I want you to think about those 2 words, and more importantly, think about the 2 feelings that you get. And so when I'm dealing with your dealership, do I have this sense of abundance? Do I have this sense of like lots of it's goodness flowing out? Or do I have this sense of fear and doubt and uncertainty, right? I want you to think about making that one of your philosophical foundations of how we roll. We believe in the abundance of the marketplace. Here's a scary way, I think, to fix the customer experience with people. I say this because I had someone ask me in one of the other classes. They said, well, what about, this is really hard to have the commission salespeople buy into this, right? And I'm a commission sale. I have straight commission. I have no base salary in what I do, and most of my clients don't. So I go, so how do you get there, right? Here's a little thing. I believe money can't get into a clenched fist. And if we are closed-minded, right, money can come into an open hand this way. It can flow in and out. That's the idea. And so we've got to see that as part of the way the market is, and we've got to be able to let things move in and out. And so one way I think to improve experience is to tell people that my overall or overarching idea and goal here is to give them a great experience even if they don't buy a car from me. And that is terrifying words for your ears. I know it is, right? This is how I think it has to change, because all of a sudden now the consumer feels space. They feel some safety, right? Part of the process that they don't like is they feel pressure in it from the get-go, right? Every little thing matters. To prepare for this, I shadowed a dealer. A friend of mine owns a dealership. I said, hey, can I come spend the day, right? So I bribed them all with pizza. I bought the whole staff a whole bunch of pizzas and stuff like that, customer experience, and bribed my way in with food. And I sat there all day. Saturday morning, got there at 8 o'clock, did the sales meeting, observed sales situations, sales people. I went to the service shop. I went to F&I office. I got to watch everything happen. It was fascinating to me. What I realized in doing that is that you all, us, the dealership community in this room, you work really hard and get really beat up some days. I didn't realize how bad it was going to be. I kind of thought, everyone kind of disappears. You're like sitting back there just, you're dropping 20s all left and right, and life's good, and you're smoking a cigar. And it's really not like that at all. It's really not like that at all. So I've really changed my tune on that. So I can see how this would be difficult, this abundance idea, because you feel so beat up, and customers are coming in demanding pricing and demanding all this stuff, and it's angst around it. But let's release some of that. Let's let it go. Let's just let it free from the process. Let's let it be and see what happens. I believe if we do this, the customer experience changes. When the customer experience changes, the numbers, the copies, the units, the gross, they all take care of themselves, including your survey scores that you have to send to the OEMs. All that stuff will get fixed if we learn to fix the front end first. And this way we do it from inside out. Okay, the next fundamental thinking idea I teach is detachment, right? And detachment just means letting things be the way they are. It means that I'm not going to get too wrapped up in the outcomes of things emotionally. I know that when people come into my dealership, some are going to say yes, some are going to say no, some are going to say maybe, and those maybes usually turn into yeses or nos. That's how it goes. And I create space to let that flow around and move, okay? If you think about the idea of attachment, think of the picture of like grabbing a hold of someone's leg as they're trying to leave the dealership. And you're like, no, don't leave, you can't leave, you have to buy something from me. And think of what they feel. Remember how we said they feel going in, right? I could pull any audience. I could go out here on the street and talk to 50 people right in a row and say, how do you feel about the car buying experience? What does it make you feel like when you go on the dealership? And you're going to get words like nervous, like I'm getting attacked, distrust, all this bad stuff, right? And it's crazy because I know after spending time at the dealership, it's not like that. It's not like that, right? It's really not like that, but everyone thinks it is, okay? So we have to change that. So if we create a sense of detachment, an air of like, it's okay. If they find a better deal, they should go get a better deal. And I shouldn't compromise my own margins and things just because I want to move a copy. See that? And so I let people go. And I say, look, my job is to give you a great experience, and hopefully all the way through it's a wonderful experience. I'd love to do a deal and have you buy a car from us. And if for whatever reason you don't, you find a better place that fits for you, I want you to go there too, because I want you to be happy in the end. And if that includes me, great. If it doesn't, okay. Hopefully, though, you'll tell your friends that it's still a great experience even though you didn't buy from us, right? The reason a lot of people don't buy from us is because the experience sucks. That's the problem. See that? So let's improve that up front. We have to believe in detachment to do that. That's the trick to this. I've got to believe that that's okay to do. Most of us are taught, in the United States at least, to believe in scarcity and attachment. We don't like to let go of things. We have to hang on to things. And being able to embrace this idea is really, really critical. And these things are the trick to improving the experience. Once you do this, the words and the actions just show themselves. Go forward this time. Okay, the last one I'll tell you on the thinking column, and then we'll get into some actionable things, is this idea of intent. So if I said, all right, I pull onto your lot, and I'm going to buy a car, and I'm talking to one of your sales people, what is the salesperson's intent? Yes, it's to sell, right? It's to sell me a car. That's what it is, exactly. That's our intent. And think again what we just talked about. Think of the way people feel coming in to the deal, right? They think about this. They feel like the intent's to sell a car, so they're naturally reserved. I want you to go back to what we said earlier. The intent, the energy, all my being should be solely focused on having that person have a good experience from the beginning to the very end. That's it. That's all it should be. And if I just do that, I think more people will come to my showroom. I think more people will buy cars from us. I think more people will tell people to buy cars from us because this experience is so wonderful. And the numbers take care of themselves. The numbers take care of themselves. They always do. Right? This is just a really difficult thing to do. If you're able to do this, and I'm going to give you a to-do item here to take this back and think about these words, come up with a few on your own too. You'll have this how we roll document, and then watch how the air starts to change a little bit. When you believe in these words and you use the language, right? Well, this sounds like one I've got to detach from, right? You got to grade up, come in, boom, talk, test drive, do everything. even a couple follow-ups and they disappear and you're like, doggone it, you try everything you can. At some point, you got to detach from that. So, I hope you found a good deal. I hope the experience was good with us. Hope you would tell people it was. Wish you luck, and if I can help you down the road, I'd love to be helpful if I can. That's it, right? And I just let them go, okay? Because my intent is for them to have a good experience. On the surveys, this is an interesting thing. So this happened to me in 2 of my car buying processes. I bought a Honda Odyssey and I bought an Infiniti. I told you that. On both of those situations, both of those groups, those 2 individuals and those 2 dealerships, told me how critically important it was to them, keyword, to them, to get a good high score on this rating thing, right? And I don't even know if people are supposed to say that. I don't understand the rules of that, but you know the rules. But, right? It's real important to them, okay? Here's the problem. I want it to be important to me. I want to be the one with the good experience, right? Not that I don't care about them as people, but that's not what this is about. And it felt that way to me, right? Even if they didn't come out and say it, give me a 7 or give me a 10, it was under there. It was like for them, and I don't want it to be for them. It shouldn't be for you. Experience isn't about you, it's about me. I'm the customer, see that? And so I believe too, if you just do the stuff that we're talking about here, even the surveys will take care of themselves. You don't even have to bring it up because they know, they're like, this is wonderful. This is the best car buying experience I've ever had, right? So think about that too. If you're doing the survey to get a checklist thing, and I know you get incentives for that, so I understand that's super, super critical. It's super critical. I know so I'm not trying to dismiss that. What I am trying to think of though is, let's don't work for that at the end. Let's work for that from the very beginning and just don't say anything about it. Just be that way. Just do it. You don't have to ask for anything. Just do it, right? Just be that way, okay? And I understand some people do this, and so I get all that. I'm a fan of I'm just going to do the work and let the outcomes be what the outcomes are. I think that's a good way to roll. Okay, so now let's get into some actionable things. Now, there's another brand that I love. I spend a lot of time on the road, my refereeing business. I'm flying all over the country, and we have a program with Marriott. So we stay in Marriotts everywhere we go for NFL games. And this is straight out of the Marriott handbook. It's called the 10-5 rule, right? I want you to think about this, the 10-5 rule. 10-5 rule means that if a guest, so in our case a customer, which I like calling them guests also, and you do, I think a lot of you say guest in the showroom. If a guest gets within 10 feet of any employee, no matter what that employee does, that guest gets greeted with eye contact and a warm smile. Eye contact and a warm smile, okay? Every time. If then that customer or guest get within 5 feet of our employee, they get eye contact, warm smile, and a sincere, warm greeting. Morning, how you doing? Good. Sincere, warm, real, okay? Now, what they don't do is they don't bow down like the Pope's coming through or anything and go, oh, yeah, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. They don't do that, right? It's just real. It's just real. I'm staying in a Marriott property here at this convention. And just last night, I came around the corner to get in the elevator, and there's a maintenance guy with 9,000 tools strapped to his belt, right? All muddy and dirty. And he goes, how you doing today? Just like that. How you doing today? And I said, I'm good. How are you? He said, I'm great. Thanks for asking. That was what it was. Right? That's what it was, okay? He greeted me in the way he greets me. That's how he is, and it's awesome. And he was excited, and I'm like, this guy loves his job. And it's like 10 at night, and he's going to fix an elevator or something. I don't know, but it was wonderful, right? That's why Marriott is so good at customer experience. And if you stay in Marriott, you get this. This is how they roll. This is how Marriotts are. All of them are this way, okay? Super little, easy tool that you can put into play right away. Everybody's got to know it and learn it, though. And they've got to be held accountable to it, right? If you put this into practice as in how we roll thing, it becomes the team's thing, and the team can hold itself accountable, right? We encourage each other in the team to do this 10-5 rule, okay? Super easy thing to execute right out of the gate. Here's an interesting story, I think, about customer experience that I had with my Infiniti dealership after the fact. So I bought my car, and about 3 months after I had it, I ran over a big shard of metal. So I came out, my tire's totally flat. So tire changed, take the tire in. I didn't know it was metal at the time, it was just flat, but they found it later. Pull in. Now the service, remember I said the Infiniti dealership on the sales side was not so hot. Service was great. Service advisor greets me, we sit and talk, he goes through everything, real thorough. He overestimates the time. That was wonderful. Told me it's going to take like 45 minutes. It took like 30. That was great. I know there's some thumb in the air stuff on that, but if you can do that, that's wonderful. That creates great experience, managing expectations. Then he comes out and says, hey, we're all set. Guys are pulling the car. The car will be around. They're pulling the car around and it'll be here right away. Okay, I'm thinking, cool. So I go check out. Receptionist was great. Got my bill done. And I go stand and start looking out the window for the cars to come in, right? Where the shuttle driver is going to bring it to me. So I'm waiting, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Remember he said right away. And I'm starting to, I don't know what's going on here, right? So the receptionist saw me standing there and she said, are you okay? I feel like something's wrong. She could tell, right? And I said, yeah, actually, they said my car was coming around right away and I keep looking and it's not here anywhere and I need to go. She goes, I'll find it for you. Now, that is not her job. Her job is not to find my car, right? Her job is to check people out and say hi to people when they come in, all that stuff. Her job is not to find my car, but her intent was real. Her intent was to give me a good experience. She wanted to take care of me, even though it wasn't her job. She got on the phone, called back, boom, boom. So that was good. So now the experience that could have been bad got a little better. Here's what got even better. When they pulled it around, the service tech came out. Greasy, eyeglasses, protective eyewear on, and he said, Mr. Neal, that was my fault. I thought we were done and I had one more thing to do and that's why it took a little bit extra time. That's on me, sorry. Okay? All I can do at that point is say, thanks, man, I appreciate that. That's good. That to me is how you do customer experience. That's how you do customer experience, right? Too often we've got people who won't face the music. Now I don't know if they do training for their service techs to talk to customers or what the deal is on that, but it worked really well in this case. So from a service standpoint, that shop gets an A+ for experience in my book because they did that. And that's what I'm talking about, of looking at all those details and having people take responsibility for it themselves. I think is a trick to this thing. Okay, next, experience at the margin. Experience at the margin. Here's how I want you to really start to dissect your customer experience. At the NFL, it's what I've learned about football. People say, what's the biggest difference from jumping from college to the NFL? And their size and speed is there, yes, but the biggest difference is that everything happens at the margin. Everything is close. All the catches are close. All the blocks are close. All the holding is close. The pass, everything's really close and tight. It's really hard. Customer experience is no different. Customer experience is not about remodeling the lounge area, right? That's great, right? Get nice fancy leather chairs and a cappuccino machine and some blocks for the kid. Awesome, that's great, right? What really matters is those little bitty details. When I walk in and someone says, can I help you? You look like you're lost. That little bitty thing is the difference, right? When I went to shadow the dealership that I watched, one of the things that I noticed was that they have a smoking pad, because you can't smoke in buildings in my state, and the smoking pad is visible to customers as they pull into the lot. And that's not a judgment on smoking. That's just something I think that just doesn't look good. It doesn't make you feel good, clean, healthy when you walk in, right? So I think they should put the smoking pad out back where no one can see it. That's my opinion. Because the first thing I see is, 6 people out there in logoed shirts having a smoke. I'm like, this doesn't sit well with me, right? That little detail matters. That little bitty detail matters. Same dealership. When these people wait for ups, they all gathered together. This is just interesting to me. They all got in a pickup truck that sat outside while they were waiting for the ups to come in. There's like 6 of them sitting in this pickup truck. And I'm thinking, it's like the clowns get out of it, a circus, and remember, the people coming on the lot, they're already scared to start with. Now I see this pickup truck full of people getting ready to get out and get them. It just didn't feel right to me, right? So I wouldn't have that happen. It's a little marginal experience thing. Have your people disperse, right? Here's another thing I noticed. I noticed this too when I fly. When I fly, flight attendants stand in the galley and bitch about their work. They gripe about it. This sucks. My shit. Awful experience for me. Awful. Hearing 2 people internally. I think if I'm you, I'm making a rule in my dealership, no 2 people that work for us can have any sort of negative conversation in front of a customer, right? Our conversations need to be positive. If they're going to be negative, we go behind closed doors. We go back in the BDC or back in the service bay or whatever to talk turkey, right? But that's something to watch, and some people do that. They come out like, yeah, I'm kind of dragging butt today, and they're talking to their coworker. I'm like, that's bad experience. So this is about looking for those little bitty detail-y things at the margin and starting to adjust those, not just remodel the lounge, that sort of thing, okay? All right, here's the next doing thing. This is an implementable thing. Tomorrow you can do this. How many of you have been to a Brazilian steakhouse like Fogo de Chao, right? Yes. So you go to Fogo de Chao, and they got these fellas running around with meat on these skewers, and they'll feed you till you eat 4 pounds of meat, and then you go home and you have the meat sweats where you wake up at 2 in the morning drenched in sweat. We've all done that, or I have at least. And the way they know to bring you the meat is they got this little card, red and green. And when it's green, you're loaded up. They're meat. When you turn it red, they disappear. And when you turn it green again, they attack, and right? It's just like that. So we understand this, right? In the United States, we get this. Green means go, red means stop. Green is good, red is bad, yellow is okay. And so we tell our customers now as we interact with them all the way through, we want the experience to be great. Great to us is it's green. It's good for you, it's green, you're green, right? I'll check in with you along the way, and if it ever gets yellow, I want you to tell me. We can talk about what's making it yellow, right? When that Infinity guy, if he had done this with me, I could have said at that point, okay, I'm getting a little yellow listening to you gripe about the group up north, right? The dealership that's poaching his business. Remember I told you that story earlier? And we could have talked about it. And he could have said, hey, you know what? I probably shouldn't have said that. You're right. It's probably a bad thing to say. And I'm back to green now. See this, right? What happens though is we don't do this, and then we never know where we are till the end. We never know where we are till the end. And the end usually means they had a bad experience and they don't buy a car from us, or they had a bad experience and they buy a car from us and they hit you on the survey and it's bad and you didn't know. This is a wonderful little thing that you can implement. Actually, I spoke a little bit on this last year at our last conference, and one of the dealers that was in that session came up to me and told me that his son, who's in a dealership with him, had implemented this experience stoplight, and in the next 2 months became the #1 salesperson at their dealership and has maintained that since then. So that was my first indication. I'm like, this works, and this is what he does. He does exactly what I taught in this session, and it's making him money, and he's selling more cars than just about anyone in his brand. According to his dad, so good thing. Okay, let's take this into language now. Let's talk about what does it sound like, right? So this first thing, and I left these blank on purpose, so you can take this back and you can say, what are the things that we want to acknowledge to customers in the beginning, okay? Acknowledgements are just that. They're things that are in the air we need to put out there. So one thing that's in the air that we need to put out there is that a lot of people don't like this process. They just don't, right? And so instead of pretending that they do, why don't we just say, hey, I know this process kind of stinks for some people. Or, I know the car buying process for some people is like going to the dentist and getting a root canal. It's just not their favorite thing to do. Just acknowledge that and people will relax on it, right? Instead of going up to them saying, how you doing today? Looking at the Ford here? Great. It's like that's what they don't like. They don't like to say, hey, I know what you think here. I know how this process works. And you're like, oh God, here he comes. It's that sort of thing. But just so you know, here's the deal. I'll do experience for you. I'm here to serve you. Love to help if I can. If I can't, you get a better deal, or for some reason there's a better place for you to buy. I just want you to be happy in the end. It's all that matters to me. My name's Brian. I'll be right in here if you need me. Right? Just a different way to approach it. That's an acknowledgement. Just saying something up front to let them know. When you go into the F&I office, okay? So I go in the F&I office. Remember my Infinity? I said I get the bad tire. So people think about the F&I office, oh, this is where I go to buy stuff I don't need, right? Like Amazon, to buy stuff I don't need. And so instead of just plowing through the list like we do sometimes, let's acknowledge that. Say, hey, a lot of people think this is the place I come to buy stuff I don't need. But some people do need this for certain reasons and want it for certain reasons. So I just want to take you through it. And you pick the things that you think are interesting to you and you say, yeah, let's do that. And if you don't, that's fine. It's kind of up to you, right? I slid a tire after 3 months or so of having a car with really expensive tires. So guess what I buy now? Tire package. I'm in. It's easy. You don't even have to show it to me. I ask for it, right? I used to not do that. Now I do because I know what can happen. Right? So we just acknowledge the process and what it's like going in. That's a great little language tool. This next one called context setting. This comes from old school speech class, and this is something that people just usually aren't really versed at, and I think it dramatically changes the experience for the better when you do this. This is just about saying what you're going to say before you say it, okay? And so I had someone in one of my other sessions come up and say, hey, we have a sheet that we use with new customers when they come into the showroom. We sit down and we call it a get to know you sheet. And we ask them these questions, where are you from? What are you doing? What are you looking for a car? He said, what do you think about that? I said, I think it's brilliant. And I would add a context statement ahead of it. So instead of just starting to ask the questions, just say, hey, we have a list of questions that we ask customers. I want to tell you why we do that and how we use it and that sort of thing. So our intent is to have you have a great experience. To do that, we just need to learn. It's helpful for us to learn what you're looking for, why you're looking for, a little bit about you, so that we make sure that the experience is the way you want it to be, not the way we want it to be. Okay? So I've got a few questions here I want to ask you. Is that okay? That's a context statement ahead of the questions themselves. All right? Little context statements all the way through are wonderful things to do. Here's an example. When I went to observe the dealership, I was observing one of their top salespeople work with a young couple, man and wife, husband and wife, and he wanted to buy a truck, and he knew exactly the kind of truck he wanted. He knew the specs. He knew everything he wanted. So he's on the line. I was talking to him a little bit, and he said to the salesperson, I want to test drive that one, the white one. He wants to test drive the white one. Okay, here's something to never say in a dealership. Never say, oh, the white one? Okay, great. I'll be right back with the keys. Don't ever say that. Because I realize finding keys is kind of like finding needle in a haystack and then some, right? It's nearly impossible to find keys in a dealership. Now, maybe yours is perfect and flawless, but it seemed really tough in this case. So she's gone like 15 minutes. While she's gone, I'm talking to him. And he said, my buddy referred me here, and he referred me to them and to her, and so far, not so good. The experience has been bad. I'm like, what about it? And he said all the things you would think. She's not listening to me. She's not understanding what we want. She said she'd be right back. She's been gone for 15 minutes. All those things are adding to his bad experience, okay? And it's so interesting for me to watch this go on because I saw these little fixes. Now, it wasn't my job to jump in and fix, but I saw them. Context setting is one. Here's how to change that scenario. You want to drive the white one? Okay, perfect. Tell you what, I'm going to go get the keys. Now, here's the thing about the keys on a Saturday. Sometimes they're hard to find. So it might take me a while. So if you want, we can go drop in the lounge. I'll get you a Coke, that whatever you want to drink. And then if I'm gone more than 10 minutes, I'll come back and check in with you, okay? Hopefully I'm not, but I might be, so just in case. But I'll come back and check just to make sure, just because sometimes finding keys can be tough, okay? That's a context statement before I go to find the keys. Do you hear the difference in that? Be right back, and then I'm gone 15 minutes, right? Versus, hey, this might take me a little while, so if you want, I can go grab you guys a drink, have you go sit in the lounge. I'll check in no later than 10 minutes if I can't find them for whatever reason, and we'll get there as soon as we can. I just think that's a better experience for the person that's on the other end, and it's a small little tweaky change. You can teach your people to do this right away, and it's not just the salespeople. It can be anything. It can be the service advisor, right? Like coming up to say, hey, okay, so we took a look, and so I'm going to lay out everything that we learned, what we found. I'm going to give you a list of things that we do. I'm going to make some recommendations on things that you should do. I'm also going to make some recommendations on things I think you should hold off on because you really don't need to do them right now. I think that's a wonderful way to treat somebody as a service advisor, putting context ahead of what you're about to tell me, as opposed to going, okay, well, here's what we got. Here's the transmission fluid, and away it goes. See that? That's how that's different, right? Context setting's really helpful on the experience side. Next is the way we ask questions. Now this is, and when I teach this and talk about it in the auto process, I'm thinking this is me finding out the whys behind the whats, okay? So here's a what for me. So I need a third row seat, right? So I go talk to this guy. I actually thought this is a good, interesting bit. I just thought of this this morning, actually. I went to look at a Range Rover, right? And I needed a third row seat, okay? So I go to this Range Rover guy, and I say, hey, man, I really like this car. I need a third row seat. I know it's got one. He said, why do you need a third row seat? Great question. I said, because I've got 4 kids. He goes, okay, tell me about them. Tell me about them. Not, boys are, tell me about them. So I said, well, I got a daughter. She's going to be a freshman. I've got 3 sons, 7th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade. He goes, okay. He said, how big are they? And I said, pretty big. My daughter's like 5'11". He goes, I got to be straight with you here. Don't buy this car. Don't buy this car. He said the third row is not really a third row. It's there, but with the size of your kids, they're going to be cramped. It's just not good. I'd go somewhere else. I thought, thank you. It's like a $90,000 car. Here's the trick. One of my friends is going to get a Land Rover. I said, go see this guy. Go see this guy because he was awesome. He told me not to buy this car and I didn't. And guess what she did? She bought a Land Rover, right? That's customer experience. That's how this works. That's how this works if we do it right, all right? So it's understanding the why behind the what, not just the what I need, but the why I need it, okay? Here's an interesting experience thing. This is just me, but it's good consumer perspective for you. I am the world's worst mechanical human being on the earth. I can't do anything. I can't screw in light bulbs. I don't know how cars work. All I need to know is if I put gas in it and push the button, it goes. And it gets me where I want to go. That's all I need to know, right? So if you took the traditional 10-step selling process in the auto business, one of the steps up front is the walk around, where we pop the hood and show all the features, right? If we have an experienced stoplight going and you start doing the walk around with me, I'm yellow, man. No, thank you. I don't care if it's got 3.5, 5.5. I don't know what horsepowers even are. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I don't need to know all the functions. I can figure out how to work the seats, right? All I need to know is I put gas in it, it goes, and it's got a good stereo. I do need to know about the stereo, right? So instead of doing that, saying you have to do that to show them this stuff, you ask me instead. So what's important to you? So we got to do the walk around. What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? I want to make the experience right for you, right? Here's an interesting tidbit. I think the golden rule is wrong, right? The golden rule. You heard the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think that's very selfish. Isn't that selfish? Why should I have someone do unto them what I would have do unto me. The golden rule should be, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. That's the real golden rule. That's what this customer experience thing is. Use these questions to figure that out, right? What's important? Why is it important? And then I can customize my experience to you, okay? Next, language tool for you to use all the way through. This goes into service, everywhere through. Also, when I say language, this also includes all the internet sales people who are interacting via text and email. All of this applies there too. Laying out the process. So tell me what's going to happen. Don't go do it. Tell me what's going to do it. So when I'm sitting at the desk and I got my Foursquare and we're working whatever we're doing, and I say, okay, I'm going to go talk to my manager, don't just disappear. Tell me what you're going to do. Now, you don't need to show me your costs and your growth. All that. That's not what I'm talking about, right? I don't need to see the ingredients in a Big Mac, but just tell them what you're going to, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you're going to tell them, okay? And you'll see if you do that, they'll feel safer. Say, okay, I'm going to go talk to Tim. I've got some numbers to look at. He and I are going to get together, and then I'll come back here within 15 minutes or less, okay? And just tell them what's going to happen. If you're going to pull my car around back, tell me where you're going to take it, okay? Last language tool I'll give you here is one of the most favorite things I teach people, and it's really easy to do, and it's really easy not to do, and it's setting clear futures. Clear futures is simply a calendared next step is all it is, right? And I know your people try to get these, and it's difficult sometimes, but you do your best. If there's going to be another step in the spirit of efficiency, write down the date that you want to do it and get it on someone's calendar. And I'm a fan of using Outlook, of introducing people and saying, yeah, this is what this is. Here's the date, here's the time. I wish my Infiniti dealership would have given me a clear future to get my oil changed last time I was in, because I almost ran out of oil. I'm that bad on the mechanical side. I wish they would have said, hey, next time, don't just put the reminder up there in the window. Tell me when to have it back. And that would have been wonderful. Okay, last thing I want to do is just challenge you. I want to challenge you to do what I said earlier. I want you to think differently about this customer experience. Think about competing against Uber and Amazon from an experience standpoint. Think about going back and doing a how we roll. Think about secret shopping with all of your employees and having them plus and minus the experience things. I challenge you then to take the action and the language things and implement those. I've got evidence early on that that's a very effective way to give people a wonderful experience and sell more cars and have them tell more people. So I challenge you to go do that. That's all. I'm going to stick up here for questions, and you can ask me things about customer experience. You can ask me things about football, like I said. I hope you got some things out of this that you can use and take back and use in your dealerships. I thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you next time.